Hi, Nancy here, and I'm going to show you how to string some beads onto your knitting so that you can actually knit beads into your pattern. I like these large-eyed, big-eyed beading needles, which you can get at any bead store. Some yarn stores have them. They're wonderful. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but they're huge. Anybody can see this spot, but they're super thin. And all I do is I take my yarn and put it through, okay? And then I have my beads here in my little bowl here, and I just start stringing away. Now make sure these are 6mm pony beads, and you want to make sure that your beads go freely over your yarn. You don't want them dragging and pulling because they'll shred your yarn, and that's not good. So we're just going to thread some of these on here so you can see what it looks like. You don't want to overload your yarn because it's very difficult to knit with. It'll kink up. You have to plan. If you have 200 and some beads, you're not going to end up putting them all on the same ball. You usually are going to have to split them up. I know you have to restart your yarn, but that's just part of the joy of knitting with beads. So I'm going to get these on my needle and on my yarn, and then I'm going to cast on my stitches and show you how to knit with them. Hi, Nancy here, and now I want to show you how to actually knit with the beads we've strung on our yarn. Okay, I'm just going to knit in a few stitches. And what I'm going to do now, we're going to pretend the pattern, or our own design if you will, is asking for a bead on this next stitch. So I'm going to slide a bead up, okay, get it into position. And don't worry if they don't get right exactly where you want them. You can move these around, and I'll show you later how I do that. Alright, so I'm going to knit my next stitch. Or if it says purl, you can do that too, whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, there's my bead. There it is on the stitch. Okay, and now we're going to knit a couple more. And now we're going to have another bead come into play here. Okay, so I'm going to slide it up. It's putsy. But on some things it looks very nice. Okay. Always remember too, I know beads are pretty, but keep in mind you put a lot of beads on something, it gets heavy. So you always want to keep that in mind. If I have a shawl, sometimes that's why I put beads in my bind up, because it holds them down and it keeps that edge nice and it lays nice. So that's just more of a functional use than a decorative. Okay, we're going to put in one more here. Okay, there's our bead. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to finish the row here. Now, when you come back, this is a stockinette pattern, and sometimes I will decide for my own reasons that I'm not going to do what the pattern tells me to do. Because I, in my mind, maybe like how something looks better the other way. So what I do, when I come back to the stitch, and I'm purling along here, and typically you purl the wrong side. When I have the beaded stitch, I don't purl it on the wrong side. I will actually knit it. Okay, and then in a minute I'm going to show you why I do that. Okay, now we're going to go along here. Make sure I'm not missing one. Okay, and then we're going to knit that one. And just to prove a point, I'm going to purl the last one, just so you can see the difference. Okay, and purl that one. Here we go. Okay, last stitch. Okay, now here's my point. Okay, you see the one that's been knit is on the right side, the right leg of the knit stitch. I can move it, but the only thing it's going to do is going to put it on the left leg of the knit stitch. The ones that I knit on the wrong side, do you see where they're sitting? They're sitting on a purl head. And they're just right there in view. They pop. I think they just show up so much better, which is why I always purl them on the wrong, knit them on the wrong side so that they have a purl on the front. You can't see the pearl, but you sure can see the bead, and that's why I like to do it that way. But anyways, that is how you knit beads that have been strung on your yarn.